One of the things I want to talk to you about is that not so much fair share housing, but for all the people here right now that have been part of the fair share housing and that day that the mayor and them came through here, would you please stand? Jacob Chaplin, you're the ones. You were here. I just want them to acknowledge you. You deserve the acknowledgement. You deserve, all the things that have taken place. And so you're somebody. Remember that. Amen? So I just want to give you your props while you can have them. I know the mayor's not here, but when he gets here, we'll give him his props. But for those who are here, we just want you to be at home, we want you to be comfortable, and we want you to get the history straight, because these people are going to tell the story. A lot of stories have been told about fair share housing, but you'll hear the truth today. They're going to give it to you. One of the things that we want to talk about is the great legacy that I had the privilege and the opportunity to be here in for just about, 40, how many years? 42 years, 32 years with this charge. And one of the things I can say, great people, great charge, but a great responsibility. And I have been blessed, highly blessed, to be part of this historical movement. And one of the greatest things that I know about this place is that years ago, I was coming from Tuckerton with my uncle, had a dog in the car. And when we pulled up and stopped right at this church. And the dog jumps out the window and runs over into a area right directly across from us. And that dog stayed there chasing this deer for a mighty, mighty long time. But I observed this building here. Now, what is the chances that as a little boy, around 12 years old, that would be the pastor at this church? God was showing me something then that I did not see. But you know one thing? It may be a small church, but it's the biggest church in this conference. We were out of 24 churches. This church was number 2. When we started, it wasn't number 2. It was on the bottom line out of 24 churches. But guess what? They rose to the top. And guess what? They're still at the top in my heart and in my mind. Good people, good vision. One of the things that I do know about this foundation that Ethel Lawrence and the family and all the families are still families, and I just can't name all the names, but you know who you are and you know what you did. The work is not done. There's more work to be done, and we're just praying that you will get that work done and that there'll be more fair share housing in the area for people to have a place to call home. And so we're just grateful. One of the things that I want to talk about is the backyard, the cemetery. For those of you who don't get a chance and opportunity to see that, I'm telling you, you need to see it, because there's history back there that is going to waste. You might not know this, but for the last 20-some years, all the 4th grades come through here for an Underground Railroad tour. And they get the truth, they get the history. And we have one young man here right now, Keith Henley, who is one of our reenactors. And Brother Barringer in the back is another reenactor. So these people get a chance to see the history live of this charge. And so we want to challenge you today, when you get a chance, look and observe all the things that are going on. Now, I know you're here for fair share housing, but this is all part of that. And you need to recognize what we have here and what we have to offer for this community. And it's a small church, but with a big heart. And that's what Jacob's Chapel has been all this time. So I want to acknowledge you and honor you myself for the work your families have done. And it wasn't just one family, it was a lot of families. I know one family's got the title and the name, but guess what? It was a lot of other people in the midst of that fight. The Still family, you name them, they've been here all this time. and they gave their props. So we just want to take our hat off for them. Give them a hand. Give this family a hand. Amen. Last thing, I just want to encourage you to be fit for the fight. And I'm talking to Fair Share Housing, because you know everything you do is going to be a fight. And my prayer for you today is that you'll put on the whole armor. Not your armor, God's armor. Because he's the only one that can take you and make you. Now, you know we got some crazy stuff going on in the government now. You know that, don't you? And guess what? We got to be real about getting things straight. And the only way you can get them straight is you got to be straight. And you got to be right about all the things that you're doing. And so we got to turn this thing around and build things up the way they need to be. Again, God bless you all. May God keep you, and may you continue to do the work to see that people get proper housing and the love that they need in the system that we're going through right now. God bless you, and may God keep you.
Good morning, everyone. I have my little notes here so I don't ramble too much. But I'm just so pleased and excited to be here today to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the landmark Mount Laurel decision. I'd like to take a few moments to share some of my personal insights that preceded the decision that aren't often spoken about. I'm sure others will share the more legal aspects of this case, so I won't belabor those points. However, I need to acknowledge some others dear to my heart who have inspired and molded my passion for affordable housing advocacy. Prior to the initial legal battle and the creation of Fair Share Housing Center, there were others crucial to bringing us here today. The Springville Community Action Committee was composed of many members of the Mount Laurel community and this very church, Jacob's Chapel. Two individuals that will always be near and dear to my heart, and some of you here may remember, were Reverend Stuart Wood and Father Don Greisman. They were like family, and I am forever grateful for their contribution to this cause. Next came those legal service attorneys that canvassed the community, learning its history, comforting and assisting residents in need. They built the foundation to argue on their behalf. Carl Bisguer, Linda Pancato Bisguer, Peter J. O'Connor, and the late Ken Miser. These individuals were more than legal advocates. They became friends and family. After the Township Zoning Board defeats, it was decided that in order for this just cause to move forward, it needed to be addressed as a class action suit. And as in the case citation, the suit read the Southern Burlington County NAACP, led by the late Roosevelt Neesmith. The Camden County NAACP, led by Cornelius Kelly Francis. And Camden County Corps, Congress on Racial Equality, led by Ron Evans. The individually named plaintiffs, oftentimes you won't see them all cited out. You'll see Ethel Lawrence et al., which means and others. each of whom is near and dear to all of us, and many of whom were my family. Please permit me to call out those other names today, as they deserve to also be recognized and celebrated. My sister, Thomasine Lawrence, Catherine Still, Mary E. Smith, Shirley Morris, Jacqueline Curtis, Gladys Clark, Betty Wheel, and Angel Perez. As I said, 4 of these individuals are my family. I don't believe they have truly received the accolades and acknowledgement for their contributions to the success of this case. Remember those young attorneys I spoke of earlier, a moment ago? These women laid bare their personal stories to be shared with the world, their anguish, their trials and tribulations that they had to face in a town that cared not about their housing situation and their struggles to raise their families in a town they called home. If you would please permit me, I'd like to call out the daughter of Catherine Still, Joni Still, and her granddaughter Dawn. My brother Frank, my sister Frances, the children of Ethel Lawrence, and their granddaughter Nicole Lawrence. Thank you. There's another name that you don't hear all the time, and that's Mary Gaines Robinson, my grandmother. Mary was not cited in the case, but she shared her life story and her knowledge, her historical knowledge of everything that was going on historically and some of the discrimination that she saw in her years in this town of Mount Laurel. She often sat in the courtroom when she was able to with her daughter, listening in to the legal arguments. It was Ethel who was always there, often alone, hanging on to every word spoken, every defensive attack, silently praying for her legal team, her family, and her community. I was once approached by an appellate judge who shared with me that it was not often that a class action plaintiff would sit in on these type of court hearings. But he said it was rare, and have no doubt her presence made a difference. I'm sure my time is almost up. I would just like to conclude and share how much I applaud and admire the work of Fair Share Housing Center for picking up the mantle and being a constant driving force, challenging municipalities, and for their continued advocacy for affordable housing in this great state of New Jersey. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ethel, for those powerful remarks and for recounting that history. Let's give one more round of applause. And thank you also, Ethel, for all of your work to carry on your family's legacy. For those of you who don't know, Ethel has spent her career building affordable housing and is a leader in her own right in this field. And thank you so much, Reverend Person, for having us all here today at this vital and historic community. It's an honor to be here, and really something else to have the honor of being at this pulpit. I'm Adam Gordon. I'm the Executive Director of Fair Share Housing Center, and I'm here to introduce Crystal Charlie. New Jersey is one of the most diverse states in the United States. It's also one of the most segregated, scarred by the history of redlining, racial steering, and other discriminatory actions. And Crystal has spent her life working to change that. I first met Crystal a little more than a decade ago when she was the president of the Southern Burlington County NAACP, which, as Ethel reminded us, was one of the key moving forces behind this lawsuit. And I saw her powerful commitment to this work very quickly. She now serves as a board member at Fair Share and as the current second vice president of the New Jersey State Conference of the NAACP. In her own career, she has led the charge through founding Melanin and Maternal Wellness and through her work at Salvation and Social Justice around the massive disparities in Black maternal and infant health. Please join me in welcoming a crucial leader in the long lineage of civil rights luminaries who have willed the Mount Laurel Doctrine into existence, Crystal Charlie.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Well, I have to be very transparent. Hearing Ethel's words really just changed everything I want to come before you to say. And so I'm going to work through what I have prepared, recognizing that so much homage has already been paid for those who laid the path for us. I thank you for sharing the names of those who are often unmentioned, the unseen, because it is through the uncelebrated voices that major change often happens. So today we gather not just to celebrate a milestone, but to honor a powerful legacy, a legacy built on perseverance, resilience, and immovable strength of community. As we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Fair Share Housing Center, we affirm our commitment to the ongoing struggles for fair housing in New Jersey, a struggle that predates my birth, yet a battle I've been honored to join in the fight. Having stood before many of you at the 40th anniversary, fighting along fair share housing for the past decade has been incredibly rewarding, even in the face of adversity. 50 years ago, the landscape of affordable housing in our state was marred by exclusion and discrimination. In Mount Laurel Township, right here at Jacob's Chapel AME Church, the words of then Mayor Bill Haynes still echo in our memories. That's right. If you people can't afford to live in our town, then you'll just have to leave. Of course, you people denoted Black people. But instead of leaving, they stood their ground. They declared together, "We shall not be moved." That was not just a phrase. It became a battle cry, a testament to their unwavering resolve. Among those who answered that call was Ethel Lawrence, and we've spoken about her today, and so many others. Her courageous actions set in motion a series of events that would change the fate of housing in New Jersey forever. In 1975, the New Jersey Supreme Court upheld her victory, mandating that the township create a plan for affordable housing. Yet even with this victory, the struggles was far from over. Local officials begrudgingly made minimal accommodations, but their actions often, and on purpose, fell short of true equity. You see, housing justice lends to access to better education and health care. And without it, those inequities will continue to persist. In a state that has the largest racial wealth gap in the nation, housing justice for Black and brown families has always been essential. It offers a pathway for true equity that benefits our communities the most. In the years that followed, Fair Share Housing faced a series of challenges, and we're still facing them today. It's been a rough month for Adam Gordon and his team. Yet, the ruling itself was revolutionary. It prohibited economic discrimination and required local governments to demonstrate how their zoning would lead to construction of affordable housing. We're seeing that going up across the landscape of New Jersey. It was a moment that would set a precedent not just for New Jersey, but for the entire nation. Yet our work is not done. While we've made great strides, disparities in housing access continue to affect communities across our state. Many still face barriers to secure affordable homes. We know that the struggle for fair housing is a marathon, not a sprint. As the U.S. faces an unprecedented housing crisis, the need for affordable housing is greater than ever before. New Jersey has a shortage of over 200,000 homes that are affordable to extremely low-income households, and the overall need is much greater statewide. The Mount Laurel Doctrine has been the backbone of affordable housing in New Jersey, leading the creation of tens of thousands of homes in historically exclusionary communities. Today, more than 400,000 New Jerseyans live in homes created through the Mount Laurel Doctrine. And so, as we honor the past, we must also look to the future and remain steadfast in our commitment to justice. Today, we also recognize and celebrate the torchbearers of housing justice, in addition to all those named by Ethel earlier, Peter O'Connor, to Kevin Walsh, to Adam Gordon, to Reverend Eric Dobson, and to the staff at Fair Share Housing, who too have contributed to this fight in many meaningful and measurable ways. Today, as we stand together, let us renew our pledge to this cause. We must continue to advocate for policies that dismantle barriers and promote equity in housing. We must lift up the voices of those who have been silenced and ensure that every family, regardless of their background, has the opportunity to thrive in a safe and welcoming community. As we reflect on the last 50 years, let us carry forward the spirit of we shall not be moved. This is our promise, not just for today, but for the next 50 years and beyond. If necessary, we will still be here, united in our mission for justice, equity, and the right to a home for every person. Together, we are a powerful force for change. Together, we will continue to climb the mountain of fairness and equality. Together, we will ensure that the dream of fair housing is not just a dream, but a reality for every person in New Jersey. Together, we will all continue to climb Mount Laurel. Thank you. Thank you. Now, I have the distinct honor to introduce our Lieutenant Governor, she too who shall not be moved, the Honorable Tahisha L. Way, Esquire. Tahisha L. Way serves as New Jersey's third Lieutenant Governor. She was appointed to the position by Governor Phil Murphy on September 8, 2023. A lifelong public servant, Lieutenant Governor Way has devoted her entire career to improving the lives of her fellow New Jerseyans. Over the past 2 decades, she has served at numerous levels of local and state government. As Lieutenant Governor, Ms. Way brings her extensive experience to bear on addressing the greatest challenges facing New Jerseyans, from making life more affordable to protecting fundamental freedoms like access to reproductive health care and equality under the law, to maintaining New Jersey's reputation as the best and safest state to raise a family. In addition to her role as Lieutenant Governor, Ms. Way has also serves as New Jersey's 34th Secretary of State, a position she has held since the beginning of the Murphy administration. As Secretary of State, Ms. Way leads one of the nation's oldest constitutional offices and directs a department with a diverse portfolio. In her capacity as New Jersey's top election official, she has overseen the State Division of Elections and its work in securing our democracy and ensuring broad, fair access to the right to vote. Lieutenant Governor Way also chaired New Jersey's Complete Count Commission, a 27-member nonpartisan commission established to achieve a complete count in the 2020 census. In addition to the critical work protecting what Lieutenant Governor Way calls the fraternal twins of democracy, she also oversees the state government offices supporting New Jersey's vibrant arts, culture, history, and business communities. Under her leadership, the state's tourism economy has generated record-high revenues. Following her 2022-2023 service as the first Black person and first secretary from New Jersey to lead the National Association of Secretaries of State, NASS, as president, Lieutenant Governor Way continues to serve on the NASS Executive Board as immediate past president. Prior to joining the Murphy administration, Lieutenant Governor Way was an administrative law judge for the state of New Jersey. In 2006, Lieutenant Governor Way was elected to the Passaic County Board of Chosen Freeholders and served as the freeholder director in 2009. She served as special counsel for the Passaic County Board of Social Services, overseeing all agency litigation. She also served as a council member for the New Jersey Highlands Water Protection and Planning Council. She is the former president of the Women Empowered Democratic Organization of Passaic County, an organization dedicated to empowering Democratic women by increasing their participation with the goal of achieving greater equality in the political process. Lieutenant Governor Way also previously served on the board of directors for the Institute for Women's Policy Research, a leading national think tank geared towards advancing dialogue and policy for improving women's lives and their families. Lieutenant Governor Way is a graduate of Brown University, where she served as vice president of the collegiate chapter of the NAACP, president of the Iota Alpha chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, taught religious education, and was a radio announcer for WBRU FM. Hey. She holds a JD from the University of Virginia School of Law at Charlottesville, where she clerked for the Virginia Legal Aid Society and the United Steelworkers of America. Lieutenant Governor Way lives in Wayne, New Jersey with her husband Charles and their 4 children, Fallon, Farah, Faith, and Fiona. She was raised in the Bronx by her late parents, Robert and Rosa Wright, who also devoted their careers to public service as employees with the New York City Transit Authority. Lieutenant Governor Way has been a member of the New Jersey State Bar Association, Garden State Bar Association, National Association of Women Judges, Association of Black Women Lawyers, Passaic County Bar Association, and the New Jersey Women's Lawyers Association. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome me in joining our Lieutenant Governor, Tahisha L. Way.
Good morning, good morning. I didn't know this was going to be This Is Tahisha Way's Life. And Madam Vice President Charlie, you forgot to note to the fine folk that I did all of that by the age of 22. So I have chills. I really do. Good morning to everyone. I have the chills because, Ethel, your words brought such history, compassion, and joy to each and every one of us. And since we're here in God's house, can we all give him the glory? So Again, I want to say thank you, Madam Vice President Charlie, and let's show her some love for all she does throughout the great state of New Jersey with the NAACP, of course, the Reverend Person and First Lady Person. Thank you for uplifting this community is one. And to all of the esteemed guests, Fair Housing, Adam, thank you for all that you do. It is such an honor to be here in this historic chapel and joining our great Governor Philip D. Murphy. Alongside him, my dear colleague, DCA Commissioner, who has been truly making certain that all of her services are uplifted, Commissioner Suarez. As we commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Mount Laurel decision, a case so significant that even I was studying as a first-year law student in the great state of Virginia. Now, there is no question that affordable housing touches every single community in New Jersey. Fitting mortgage or rent payments into a family's budget is a challenge for many families. But for communities of color, affordable housing also carries with it the vestiges of slavery, segregation, and redlining. And for generations, these practices prevented families of color from living in thriving communities with great public schools. They also hindered our communities from benefiting from one of New Jersey's greatest strengths, her diversity. There's so much to be gained from welcoming neighbors with a variety of backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives. So, instead of becoming more insular from what truly makes us great, the Mount Laurel decision offers us an opportunity to enrich our communities. And there is no question that this administration is working hard to reach that goal. For example, we have invested hundreds of millions of dollars into both rental assistance and the construction and preservation of affordable housing. We have taken seriously the recommendations of the Wealth Disparity Task Force to build on the existing enforcement of the New Jersey law against discrimination. And it is evident through the legislation that I signed as acting governor to address discriminatory housing appraisals. Affordable housing is a moral imperative. Ensuring that every family has the opportunity to contribute to the fabric of our state is key. My friends, I am incredibly proud to be part of an administration that is committed to the principles of fairness and equity that the Mount Laurel decision represents. So, today, as we reflect on the legacy of this landmark decision, we must also simply look forward. Let us work collectively as a New Jersey community to ensure that this state continues to be a place of opportunity, inclusion, and shared prosperity. Thank you, each and every one of you, for showing up. And of course, blessings to all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Governor. Let's have just one more round of applause for those wonderful remarks on your leadership. Thank you so much. So, some brief reflections before I have the honor of introducing the governor. We're here today because of people who stood up in a hard time in a tough spot. The stories that we heard from Ethel, remember, was at a time right after Dr. King was assassinated, a time much like today when many others chose to retreat instead of move forward. When many people heard that there were giants in the land and that it was not worth the fight. It was an honor to hear the stories of your mother and also of the many other people, the Stills, the many other families who have led this work. And I'm going to tell another one that was passed down to me from Carl Biscayer, who's here today, one of the lawyers who tried the original case. There was a pivotal meeting at your mom's house with the leaders of the community about whether to bring the lawsuit or not. And there were many people in the room who said, this is our town, we can't sue our town. And then your mom stood up and said, yeah, this is our town. It's where we live. It's where our ancestors are buried. And we need to fight to keep it a place where we can stay. We need to get our town back. All over this country, there are people who claim towns as their own while pushing out the people who built those communities, while pushing out the people who wait tables in fancy restaurants, and pushing out the people who teach in their schools. In Mount Laurel, Ethel and so many of the other families represented here today stood up and said, not in our town. And Mount Laurel, let's worth a round of applause, yeah. And look at Mount Laurel today. Money Magazine named it one of the 50 best places to live in the United States. It has great schools. It has a thriving business center. And this church is still here. This community is still here. It's why Mount Laurel is a great town. All because of people who stood up and made sure it continued to be our town. And you know what's pretty incredible? We have the mayor of Mount Laurel here today. Where are you, Mayor? Oh, there, right there. Thank you, Mayor. And you may know, I think, that your predecessor came up, as we heard earlier today, and stood here and delivered really, pretty hateful words about this community. And I have to say, it is really a very different place today, thanks to your and your colleagues' leadership, who have made this a welcoming place and a place that embraces this community and its diversity as a strength instead of something to be brushed away. Thank you, Mayor. You know, 50 years is a long time, and we're only here today because people in every moment and every generation have stood up. So many are here, and I'm going to mention just a few. Carl Biscayer, who along with Peter O'Connor and Ken Miser stood up when Mount Laurel ignored the initial decision and fought all the way to make it real. Kevin Walsh, who stood up to stop wealthy mayors who were buying out of their way of fair share obligations. Reverend Eric Dobson, who stood up and continues to stand up for realizing the vision of Mount Laurel of racial, social, and economic integration. David Kinsey, who stood up as an urban planner willing to embody the values of racial and economic justice. James Williams, who stood up for the first fair chance in housing bill in the country. Catherine Payne, who stood up to figure out how we commemorate this history and organize this event today. And everybody from our board and all the organizers and leaders and staff in this room who continue this work today. And our legal team who's not here because they are, as Crystal referenced, in the middle of some cases at this very moment. Let's have a round of applause to recognize all these leaders, staff, and government. You know who else has stood up for this community and this work? The governor of the state of New Jersey, Phil Murphy. Here's a moment that sticks in my mind. When the governor was running for re-election, there was a gubernatorial debate in which he was asked a question, along with his opponent, about Mount Laurel. And you know what he did? A lot of prior governors would have said, oh, the courts made us do this. Oh, it's too bad we had to do this. He said Mount Laurel is a game changer. He stood up for this work, and he stood up for this fight. You know, Governor, I've had the privilege of knowing you for over a decade now, and you've been with us every step of the way. You restored the Affordable Housing Trust Fund after the prior administration cut it and invested over $1 billion in pandemic relief money to stop people from being evicted. And build affordable homes with the work of Commissioner Suarez and Melanie Walter and HMFA. Governor, you stood up to pass the Fair Chance in Housing Act to make sure that people, when they've served their time, have a fair shot at getting a home. And you stood up almost 1 year ago to the day to sign a landmark bill that safeguards and strengthens the Mount Laurel Doctrine for generations to come. That bill, A4S50, is the strongest legislation of its kind in the U.S. It's a tribute to the governor's leadership and to the vision of the state senator representing this community, Troy Singleton, and Speaker Coughlin, Assemblywoman Lopez, and Senators Scutari and Ruiz. But we only got there because the governor was willing to roll up his sleeves and bring everyone together, advocates, organizers, legislators, developers, mayors, to get the job done. And that's because the governor understands the stakes of housing crisis for working families who are living paycheck to paycheck. The governor has been willing to fight tooth and nail to make this fourth round a historic success with more transparency, less bureaucracy, and creating more affordable housing than ever before. And we already are seeing the results. 450 towns are participating in the Mount Laurel process, 100 more than ever have before, and committing to create affordable homes. Governor, as I close, you've spoken about the importance of New Jersey values many times when I've heard you speak. And we celebrate here today a 50-year movement with New Jersey values at our core. We stand up for our communities. We don't take no for an answer. We know we can have economic growth that includes everyone. And we believe that the best for our communities and our state is still to come. Please join me in welcome to the podium of this sacred space, the 56th governor of the state of New Jersey, Phil Murphy.
Thank you. Good morning. I want to begin by giving glory and honor to God. Amen. Adam, thank you. More on you in a minute. But Deep, you can introduce me anytime. You only left out the Heisman Trophy. Other than that, we're good. Good morning, everyone. It is a great privilege to be with you in this historic Jacob's Chapel AME Church, a house of worship that has long stood at the crossroads of our nation's journey toward racial justice. I don't know what happened to Nick. He's right there. I also want to say it's good to be back in Mount Laurel, Mayor. God bless you and your colleagues. To Reverend Terrell Person, to First Lady Toileen Person, and to all the members of this great congregation here at Jacob's Chapel, let me say thank you for welcoming us this morning to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Mount Laurel decision. Over the past half century, and by the way, you all have forgotten more about this than I'll ever know. So while I appreciate Adam's kind words, I'm the least qualified person to be speaking here today. But over the past half a century, the Mount Laurel Doctrine has transformed the affordable housing landscape in our state for the better. And in the process, it has helped provide housing to more than 400,000 New Jerseyans. And I can think of no better venue for us to celebrate this remarkable legacy than right here in Jacob's Chapel, where the seeds for that momentous legal victory were first planted. For generations, this community has been guided by a sacred mission, saving our society one family at a time. It is a legacy of service that extends all the way back to the days of the Underground Railroad, when the Coleman Town Meeting House offered refuge to those fleeing enslavement. It is also a legacy of service that lives on today in all of the advocates who have fought relentlessly to realize the promise of the Mount Laurel Doctrine. Many of those advocates are with us today. Crystal, I love hearing from you as always. And representing the NAACP, I have to say I'm a proud former national board member, thanks to Hazel Dukes, who we lost earlier this month, and Julian Bond, who are dear friends. But Crystal, I think you captured, as did Tahisha, and I wish I had heard Ethel's comments. I'll take a rain check, and we're live streaming it so I can watch it later. But I think you captured the balance that is important to talk about today. Proud of enormous progress, but very sober about the journey still before us. We have to keep both of those somewhat conflicting, if not quite conflicting, thoughts and impressions in mind. Adam, to you and the entire team who have been such phenomenal advocates and partners for building a stronger and fairer New Jersey, not just when it comes to the Mount Laurel Doctrine, but also as a member, I add proudly, of our administration's Wealth Disparity Task Force. I remember when it was cold, dark, and lonely coming out to see you. Kevin, I think you were there. Peter O'Connor was there. And you guys took a meeting with me. You had never even heard of me, so I will never forget that. And I think it's fair to say we had each other at hello, as they say in the movies. We're also joined by my dear friend and partner, a dedicated defender of democracy, and our state's third lieutenant governor. We heard from her, Tahisha Wade. Tahisha, thank you. And let's all keep the spirit of Sheila Y. Oliver, Tahisha's predecessor, and someone who was so committed to addressing wealth disparities and affordable housing specifically. Let's keep Sheila's memory in our prayers. And of course, I want to thank, in particular, a champion for justice, the daughter of a trailblazer who we all owe a tremendous debt of gratitude. Ethel, thank you and bless you. Let me just say, without the leadership and courage of you and your mother, none of us would be standing here today, period. And it's thanks to your family and the original plaintiffs and their families that right now there are generations of New Jerseyans who have a safe, affordable place to call home in the communities that they cherish and love. And it is because just over 50 years ago, Ethel Lawrence helped inspire her neighbors and fellow church members here at Jacobs Chapel to lead a legal revolution. Together with the support of local chapters of the NAACP, they took the fight for racial equality in housing to our state's courts. And they proved that when concerned citizens band together in support of a righteous cause, they can change our system of laws for the better. And with that original victory back in 1975, I might add I graduated from high school in 1975, they paved the way for a legal doctrine that has made New Jersey more affordable and more accessible, not just for our black and brown neighbors, but for all of our working neighbors. But sadly, again, as Crystal so eloquently alluded to, at the same time, in the years since the first Mount Laurel ruling, we've also seen the emergence of new obstacles when it comes to expanding access to affordable housing. We're dealing with some today. We're being sued over that landmark law that Adam referred to by several dozen towns. In fact, for decades, as you all know better than I, all three branches of government in New Jersey have wrestled with how to apply the principles of the Mount Laurel Doctrine in practice. And along the way, we've seen a slew of legal challenges that have sought to delay the development of new affordable housing units in the communities where they are needed most. And as a result, today, New Jersey is now plagued by the same challenge that is impacting virtually every American state in the nation. Our supply of affordable housing has not kept pace with demand. As things stand, again, as Crystal referred to, we have an estimated shortage of more than 200,000 units of affordable housing. And that means the promise of the American dream remains unfulfilled for far too many of our working neighbors. That is exactly why, since our first day in office, we have been fully committed to ensuring that every community in New Jersey provides its fair share of affordable housing. Because at a time when working families are struggling to get by, they deserve leaders and leadership, just as this community offers, who are not afraid to fight for their needs and for their future. And with the help of so many of the leaders in this room today, that is exactly what we have done together. And specifically, as Adam alluded to, 1 year ago this month, with the support of our legislative partners, Senate President Nick Scutari, Speaker Craig Coughlin, your Senator, the great Troy Singleton, Assemblywoman Yvonne Lopez, and others, I signed the most important affordable housing law that New Jersey has seen in decades. And with this law, we have codified the principles of the Mount Laurel Doctrine into law to make it easier for towns to comply with it. We also did something that I have been calling for since when I first ran for governor, and I think I was imbued with this when we sat those many years ago. We took the process, at least we tried to take the process, out of the courts. Some others have seen that differently, and ensured that affordable housing disputes would not be subject to years-long litigation any longer. As a result, we have vastly streamlined the process for building new affordable housing where they are needed most. And I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge another colleague who's with us today, who's playing a leading role in converting the text of this law into action. our friend and Commissioner of the Department of Community Affairs, Jacqueline Suarez. Jacqueline, thank you. Along with your great team of colleagues at the Department of Community Affairs. It is thanks in large part to their commitment to implementing this new law that there are now more towns in New Jersey cooperating, as Adam mentioned, with the state's affordable housing policy than at any other time in our state's history, period. I think I share Adam and others' viewpoint that I'm going to view this glass as half empty until we get all 565 of these communities to be on board. But beyond this historic legislative breakthrough, our administration has also made, I think, big investments into expanding access to affordable housing all across New Jersey. In fact, today I'm proud to report that under our administration, Jacqueline's department has invested almost $250 million into housing production, which has supported the construction of nearly 1,600 new affordable housing units. And on top of the funding, under our watch, the New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency, under Melanie Walters' great leadership. Melanie's not here, I don't think, right? Give her a shout out in absentia. Has also created and preserved more than 30,000 additional affordable housing units. The point is that over the past now 7+ years, we've made the most significant investments into building new affordable housing in our state's history. But we're not done yet. In January, during my State of the State address, I announced my support for a new package of legislation, by the way, also led by Troy, that will vastly accelerate the process for building new, both market rate and affordable housing all across New Jersey. And the proposals that comprise this package will advance that goal by, for instance, I'll give you a couple of examples, eliminating minimum parking requirements for developments located near public transit stations, or by allowing stranded assets like an abandoned office park or a mall to be converted into developments that could include residential units and specifically affordable housing. Altogether, these proposals will modernize our zoning and land use laws so we can increase our housing supply and make it easier for New Jerseyans to find a safe, affordable place to call home. And I look forward, God willing, sooner than later, to signing this package of legislation before we hang up our cleats next January. With these reforms, along with our broader investments into building new housing in general, we're living up, or trying to live up, every day to the promise of the original Mount Laurel decision. And let's be clear, the fight, as we've all mentioned, for affordable housing is not just about building a more just and equitable state for our black and brown neighbors. This is also about ensuring that New Jersey remains the state of opportunity for families of all backgrounds. This is about supporting all of our working neighbors, our nurses, our law enforcement officers, our educators, and so many more who keep our state moving every single day. Because when we invest in the economic security of our people, we are really investing in the future of our entire state. And that is exactly why states across the nation, states like California and Massachusetts, to name a couple, are following our lead by enacting laws that borrow from the framework that was created 50 years ago, thanks to the leadership and vision of community leaders like Ethel Lawrence, Peter O'Connor, Carl Bisgayer, the other original plaintiffs and families. And to that point, I want to close this morning by making two observations, including one about Ethel's legacy. The first one is a sobering one. We're not gathering here at this historic chapel in a bubble. We're gathering at a time when there are enormous trends in our nation, a level of volatility that I don't think any of us have experienced, at least in decades. And a lot of it not good for the causes that we're talking about today. So we're going to have to, just like after Dr. King was killed and those turbulent years in the late 60s and early 70s, we're going to have to stick together, folks, because this is going to be, we're fasten our seatbelts, we're in for a very challenging ride, and it's only just begun. But the other one, I want to end on a little bit more of a grace note and make an observation on Ethel Lawrence's legacy, Because before Ethel, again, I'm speaking, I'm not even qualified to say this, but I'm going to give it a shot. Before Ethel ever emerged as the so-called Rosa Parks of affordable housing, she served our state as an educator right here in Burlington County. She worked every day to shape the minds of young New Jerseyans. And I think that it's only fitting, because the truth is, Ethel's model of community leadership should also serve as a lesson to every single one of us. Through her own, amen. Through her own advocacy, Ethel taught us that no matter how insurmountable the odds may seem, we can never back down from fighting for justice. She taught us that we can never back down from defending the promise that we are all entitled to equal rights and economic dignity. And perhaps most importantly, Ethel Lawrence taught us that when a community of concerned citizens stand together, then, as we need to again now, in support of our shared values, we can change the world for the better. In Ethel's words, and if I may, I'm going to quote your mom, God intended for us to live in harmony on earth. Amen. Amen to that, right? And it is thanks to all of you here today and beyond that we are building a New Jersey in which all of our neighbors, no matter their race or their economic status, can live in that harmony. So thank you, all of you, for doing your part to build a stronger, fairer, and more equitable state. I'm grateful for your leadership as well as for your commitment to honoring Ethel's legacy, and I'm humbled and honored to be with you today. God bless you all.
All right, let's have one more round of applause for the governor of the state of New Jersey, Phil Murphy. You know, and it was the first time we met, I was like, this is somebody that I want to work with. And you know why? You can tell why? We just passed the most prominent New Jersey housing legislation ever last year. And what does the governor do? He said, let's pass 3 more bills. That's our kind of spirit as well. And we're in that fight too. My colleague Altariq Witcher here was just testifying in Trenton last week for that. So let's get it done, because we still have a huge housing crisis. I want to really thank the people who made this happen. I want to thank Catherine Payne, Dave Matheson, Emily Devaney, Jack Davies, Olivia Reagan, and Orlando Salas on our team for making all this possible. And thank you very much, Pastor Person, Toylene, Terry Benson, James Berrigan, and the entire Board of Trustees for making this event possible and making it possible to use this sacred space. Let's give a round of applause for everyone who made this happen. You know, again, as a couple people have said, 400,000 people in New Jersey live in homes today that would not exist without the Mount Laurel Doctrine. That's pretty incredible. But there's still so much to do with the housing crisis we're facing today. And we stand up every day at Fair Share Housing Center and do the work to end segregation, to build homes, and to deliver justice until it is rolling down like a mighty stream. All that only happens because of all of you in this room. There's a continuous lineage of people stretching back to all the families that are here and all the other leaders who have stood up in the past 50 years. And it's going to be up to us, especially as the governor said, in this challenging time, to stand up in the next 50. I want to remind you that we have a lunch afterwards at Ethel Lawrence Homes, 1 Ethel Lawrence Boulevard in Mount Laurel, with keynote remarks by Commissioner Suarez. We're really excited about that, and a dedication of a monument, a plaque for the 50-year anniversary. Hope to see you all there. Thank you so much. God bless. Here's to another 50 years.